Hey, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome. Glad to get to pray with all of you today. It's been 4 months since our community last gathered in person. 4 months since some of us began to separate ourselves from others, stay home unless absolutely necessary, learned to really wash our hands, started to discover our quarantine must-haves. One of mine is peanut butter and jelly. In some ways, the past 4 months have been preparing us for right now, a time period on our calendar called Bein HaMitzarim, between the straits, the strictures, between the narrow places. Bein HaMitzarim is the 3-week period between the 17th of the month of Tammuz, which is on Thursday, and Tisha B'Av, the 9th of the month of Av, which is coming up in a few weeks on July 29th at night and 30th. Traditionally, a time of sadness as we move from the date that the Romans breached the walls of Jerusalem until the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, back in 70 CE. According to the tradition, it's a time of increasing mourning. First, we refrain from certain activities like listening to live music, getting haircuts, and going to weddings. Sounds familiar. Then we enter into a more strict time, either 9 days or the week of Tisha B'Av, of the 9th of Av, where we cut out meat. For some of us, maybe it's a little bit less of a restriction, less new. And then on Tisha B'Av itself, the 9th of the month of Av, it is a full day of fasting, just like Yom Kippur, the only other one on our calendar. 25 hours, no food or drink, no showers, no leather shoes. We read the book of Lamentations. It is a day of tears. Netivot Shalom, the Rabbi, teaches that all of Torah, all of our holidays, even if they seem tied to a particular point in time with particular characters, all of them are eternal, and they have significance for us in every generation. So what is it that we might learn from this period of Bein HaMitzarim and from Tisha B'Av right now in 2020? Netivot Shalom tells a story of Plato going to the prophet Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, and asking, how is it that someone as wise as you is crying over the past? The Beit HaMikdash is burned and destroyed. What good is crying? Now, there are a couple of issues with this story. Emotional intelligence maybe wasn't a thing yet. Also, Plato and Jeremiah didn't live at the same time. But still, the Rabbi offers us an answer. The grief over the Beit HaMikdash, the tears that Yirmiyahu and so many others have cried, those were not bechi shel yeush, crying or tears of despair, but bechi shel tikva, tears of hope. Not the kind of mourning where we are allowed to make peace with the loss. Instead, we cry tears that recognize what has been destroyed. We feel it deeply, but also know that things can be different. Believe even that they will be, even if we don't know when. Where are we seeing and feeling the brokenness around us most profoundly right now? Sadly, in so many places, al ele ani bochia, for these things I cry, and I'm reluctant to even list any areas of brokenness that are very much on our mind, because I know I can't list them all. The systemic racism that continues to claim the lives of Black people, the stripping of rights from trans people in our country, voter suppression laws, the continued ravaging of our environment, the list goes on. And of course, the one that I want to focus on for just a moment, but brings me a lot of tears, a lot of grief, a lot of sadness, COVID. Cases of COVID are rising rapidly. More and more people are dying in our country and in our state. Our economy is crippled. Countless people are out of work in California alone, and so many others are struggling. According to one study, Black people are getting sick and dying at rates over 2 times higher than white people. For this, I cry. And yet, I am reminded by our tradition that these must not be tears of despair, but tears of hope, tears of deep yearning. We cry because the illness, the isolation, the fear, it doesn't have to be this way. I cry with hope, even though our government continues to make dangerous decisions, because I know that some of our elected officials are pushing guidelines that can make a difference. And looking on an individual level, I have hope because I know that every one of us can make choices that change the course of this pandemic, if only we commit to doing so together. There's a projection tool that says that if 95% of people were to wear masks whenever they go out in public, we could see a significant decrease in illness and in death. Just in California, between now and November 1st, according to this particular projection tool, we could see 5,000 fewer deaths. 5,000 people who would not die if all of us, 95% of us in our society, would be willing to wear masks. I cry because somehow it has become complicated to ask this of one another, to expect it of one another. But I also have hope that this can change. And together we can find a way out of this broken and painful time. Over the next 2.5 weeks, as we move more deeply into the mourning time constructed by our rabbis, we can immerse ourselves in the reality of the brokenness around us. Let us confront it honestly. Let us feel it. Let us sit down on the floor and lament and cry, really cry. But let us remember that these are Dema'ot shel tikva, tears of hope, tears born from the awareness that change is possible, that we ourselves can take action to bring about those changes. Because as the Netivot Shalom also teaches, when we immerse ourselves in true grief over that which is broken, but grief that is mixed with hope, then we begin to bring about the redemption. Shabbat Shalom.